With the US government last week trying to argue in court that Prince Harry's admissions in Spare about his past illicit substance use is not proof that he actually took any at all, could Courtney Cox actually be the one to sue him? Hey up everyone, it's me, Stef, the Alt-Nerd, your nerdy alternative, and welcome to another dose of the Daily Nerd, where I break down the royal news and gossip of the day that's pretty much caught me eye, and oh my goodness. Yeah, let's jump into this, shall we? So this time last year, Spare was released, and oh my goodness, was it debunked left, right and centre, right? But one of the big headlines from that particular book was all about Courtney Cox. Now, Hazard in the book details a time that he was at Courtney Cox's house, right? And he describes an event whereby he was led to the kitchen and someone had led him and his mate to a fridge from which he extracted a soft drink. While the door was opened, he wrote, "We spotted a huge box of black diamond mushroom chocolates. Someone behind me said they were there for everybody. Help yourself, boys. My mate and I grabbed several, gobbled them, washed them down with tequila. We waited for Batman to indulge as well, but he didn't. Not his thing or something. How do you like that?" We said. "This bloke's just sent us by ourselves into the Batcave. We took ourselves outside, sat down by a fire pit and waited. I remember after a time standing up and wandering back into the house to use the loo." He goes on to say, "Lovely room, I thought, shutting the door. Beautiful hand soaps, blah, blah, blah." But then he says, "Beside the toilet was a round silver bin, the kind with a foot pedal to open the lid. I stared at the bin. It stared back." What? Staring? Then it became a head. I stepped on the pedal and the head opened its mouth, a huge open grin. So here, Harry is writing about an event at Courtney Cox's house where he's turning around and saying, opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, that at her house, she somehow supplied him with mushrooms, okay? Now, this is what Courtney Cox had to say in response to this all when it hit the headlines. She says, "He did stay here for a couple of days, probably 2 or 3. He's a really nice person. I haven't read the book. I do want to hear it because I've heard it's really entertaining. But yes, it's gotten back to me about it. I'm not saying there were mushrooms. I definitely wasn't passing them out." Now, this now goes to current day, which is the US government turning around and saying in court, well, has a detailing his illicit substance use in the past. Yeah, it's not actually evidence or proof that he actually took any to begin with. So him turning around and saying, "I took these illicit substances at Courtney Cox's house," isn't actually proof, according to the US government's logic, that actually happened in the first place. So potentially, opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, gotta be careful here. Could Hazard be lying about Courtney Cox? And could she actually do something about it? Could she actually sue him for lying about her, right? And so, yeah, if this is the case, has he also apologized to Courtney Cox? If, again, the story is false and he just put it in to embellish and sell the book as per the US government's argument, right? Lady D at 20_Patricia_20 says, "If Hazard embellished in that book he wrote, I would 1,000% plus agree with and support anyone he mentioned in it to sue him for defamation. In particular, Courtney Cox for besmirching her reputation." And thanks Lady D for tagging me in. You're on the video now. Thanks for that. Then we have, of course, my good friend, the Royal Rogue, Jesus. If you're not subscribed to him, get it done, guys. Saying, "Let's be honest, we all agree that half of what's in here never happened. So the legal dismiss, i.e. what the US government is trying to argue here, is not that surprising. We also have stories by J.E. May saying, I can't say this loudly enough, and I hope if you agree, you will also make the point again, perhaps better in your own posts. If Prince Harry, through his lawyers, claim in US federal court that the narrative in Spare is an exaggeration or untrue, then there needs to be a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit filed against Prince Harry and his publisher, Penguin Random, throwing the ghostwriter for good measure. Spare was marketed to the worldwide public as wholly truthful. They can't have it both ways. And no, Harry, she's describing Megsy here, basically saying that she can't get you out of this mess. But, you know, stories by J.E. May also makes the very, very good point that, look, this book was marketed as a truthful, honest account of Hazard's life adventures, right? So, actually, if it's untrue, as per the argument from the US government, then yeah, could there be a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit? More specifically, could Courtney Cox have the best chance, actually, of suing Hazard into oblivion with the story that he wrote in Spare about being at her house and there being illicit substances there, right? I mean, if you look at the website from the Penguin Publishing House, it literally says, right at the end, for the first time, Prince Harry tells his own story, chronicling his journey with raw, unflinching honesty. Well, that is absolutely going against what the US government is trying to argue in the whole US visa case against the Heritage Foundation. So if the US government's argument is correct, then in that scenario, this is totally false. And so we can safely assume that potentially this story about Courtney Cox and her house is also false. So again, then the question is, does Courtney Cox have a really, really good chance of successfully suing Hazard into oblivion for writing this story in Spare in the first place if there isn't any ounce of truth to it in the first place? Let's leave it with @bonquiqui on Twitter saying, look, since Harry now admits he lied about everything in his book, somebody should sue him for lies regarding the racism allegations against the royal family, since he is a self-admitted liar. Now, this is their opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, right? But again, it speaks to the notion that, you know, based on the US government's argument in the US visa case against the Heritage Foundation, well, yeah, if the book was exaggerated and none of it is true, or there isn't an ounce of truth into anything that's in there, including Hazard writing about his past substance use, whatever you want to call it, right? Well, yeah, could Courtney Cox sue him into oblivion? But more than that, could the royal family actually sue him into oblivion? Because if the US government is saying that he embellished stories about his past substance use, what is there to say that he didn't embellish stories about everything else in the book as well, right, guys? But yeah, turning it around full circle, really, the US government might have opened the door for Courtney Cox to come in and be like, do you know what? What you wrote about me in that book at my house in terms of the shrooms, yeah, no, it's not true. And if the US government's turning around and saying that you exaggerated stories and embellished them to, you know, improve the saleability of your book and to make more money out of it, well, yeah, you lied about me, therefore I'm going to sue you into oblivion. That could potentially be the case, guys. What do you lot think? With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, and believe me, of course there's going to be more, then make sure you subscribe to join our Alternate tribe. I'll be honest with you, help us get to 100k so we can get that silver play button right there and hopefully cause a Christopher Boozy meltdown on Twitter. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theories, whatever's. Also as well, if you've got some very strong opinions about Hazard's book Spare and the chances of Courtney Cox successfully suing him into oblivion, and I bet you do, make sure you send me a super thanks. It's just below this video right here. We can have a conversation about this because it does guarantee a response from me. And until the next time, you guys, laters.